Hi, it's Mrs. Clark. Welcome to Lesson 6 and the final lesson of Unit 2, Fraction and Decimal Number Sense. Today we're going to take a look at our last point, rounding decimals. Now before we get started, I want to make sure that you're ready. Do you have your math notebook and your math notes you need for this video? Are you focused? Do I have your full and complete attention? If so, let's get started. By the end of today's video, you will be able to round decimals to the nearest whole number, tenth, and hundredth. So let's get started. Rounding decimals is the same as rounding whole numbers, and I included here a fun little saying to help us remember the rules of rounding decimals. Find the number, look right next door, 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest. Now let's use that rule when applying it to decimals. And it's also helpful to think about a number line. Those number lines are important. Notice they keep popping up in all the videos. All right, so let's do one together. First, round the decimal to the nearest tenth, and here's how we're going to do that. First, we're going to have to find the tenths place and circle it. Then we're going to have to look at the digit next door. If the digit is 5 or more, we're going to change the number and move it up 1. If the digit is 4 or less, we're not going to change it at all. And then we're going to apply this rule to the number in the tenths place and get our new rounded answer. So let's try it. Let's try it with 58 hundredths. Now first, circle the digit in the tenths place and look next door. That's an 8. Now let's look at my rule. Is 8 5 or more or 4 or less? Since 8 is larger than 5, it's going to tell my 5 to go up to the next digit, which would be a 6. So my new number is 6 tenths. Now, if I think about this in terms of a number line, I notice that I have two sets of tens, 5 tenths and 6 tenths. Now look at the number 58 hundredths. Do you think it's closer to the 6 or the 5? I can see on my number line that the dot is clearly closer to 6 tenths than it is back to 5 tenths. So that confirms that my answer of 6 tenths is the correct way to round this answer. Let's try this again. Let's try it now by rounding to the nearest hundredth. Same rules apply. We're just going to have to find the digit in the hundreds place first and circle that. Look next door and apply our rule. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. And then I need to apply this rule to the digit in the hundreds place. So let's try it with 421 thousandths. First, find the digit in the hundreds place and look next door. That's going to be my 2, and look over next door at the 1. Is 1 5 or more, or is it 4 or less? 1 is 4 or less. So it's not going to change the digit that I circled. It's just going to say the same. So my answer is going to be 42 hundredths, and I just delete the 1, and I could make it a 0 or just leave it the way you see it on the screen. 42 hundredths. And if I use my number line theory, again, I can see that 421 thousandths is much closer to 42 hundredths than it would be the next number, which is 43 hundredths. So that confirms that I rounded correctly. One more time. Let's apply these rules to rounding a decimal to the nearest whole number. We're going to do it the same way. Find a digit in the ones place, because when I'm talking decimals, the ones place is the closest whole number that I'm dealing with. Look next door, raise the score if it's 5 or more, let it rest if it's 4 or less, and then apply this rule to the digit you circled in the ones place. Let's look at 12 and 5 tenths. Circle the 2, that's the digit in the ones place. Look next door to the right and look at your rule. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. It's 5. So 5 is going to tell my 2 to go up to the next digit, which would be a 3. So my new answer is going to be 13 and 0 tenths, or just 13. The decimal and the 0 here aren't necessarily required because it's just a whole number with no decimal. And if I look at my number line, the decimal of 12 and 5 tenths, it's right in the middle between 12 and 13, right? But we know that 5 is the cutoff. 5 or more, raise the score, and you go up to the next number. You don't go back to the number before it. Well, that's it for today, guys. We learned about rounding decimals and how you use the same rules you already know to round decimals to the nearest tenth, hundredth, and whole number. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you guys in the next video.